he's been a big supporter of Gateway House, and more than anything, he's worked with Latin America since more than 1 decade as ambassador and also with the Ministry of External Affairs in Delhi as head of the Latin American and Caribbean department. And the best thing is that he has a passion for Latin America, so he's going to have a legacy a lot after he's left the service as well. So he's continuing to work with a lot of companies in Latin America and also with think tanks like Gateway House. And thank you, Ambassador, for being here. And I'd also like to introduce Shivnath Thukral, who's with Essar and who's been a big supporter also of Gateway House and an early member of Gateway House as well. So, great. If we'll start with 20 minutes or so with the ambassador talking about India's prospects in Latin America and how we can take this forward to the new region. And after that, we'll open it to question and answer with Shiv, and then we'll open it to the audience.
I'd just like to say something. Hari is a Latin American researcher. He's been in Peru and he's actually initiated a Latin American studies. So, and also, this is a holiday week, so all the hardworking people in Bombay are all still here. So, Neelam is away in Washington actually. She just spoke at Kings yesterday and at the Stimson Center, so she's been busy and so I'm sorry that she's not here. We're okay.
That's great actually. We get people here working holiday weekend. That's a good sign. No introductions. Ambassador Vishwanathan is well known to everyone already. And if you want to know anything more about him, I've been going to his website this morning. It's as passionate a outcome of his career that we're going to hear about. But thank you so much. As per Gateway House rules, everything is off record. So feel free to give us some juicy stories from that part of the world. And also, since this audience is a mix of business as well as researchers, what really is stopping us? I mean, I think that's one thing people want to know because whenever we talk about Latin America, Indian raise their hands, it's too far. I think it's only too far in the mind. Maybe you can dwell on that.
Gateway House has given me the topic, Indian Road to Latin America. There is a Spanish poem. It says, Caminero, no hay, se hace a la mar. O traveler, there is no road ahead. You make it as you go along. So India is in the process of making this road to Latin America. Of course, in our own typical Indian way. That reminds me of the story of road making. The Indian Minister of Roads visits a Latin American country. They have dogs, signing agreements. In the evening, the minister is invited for dinner in the residence of the Latin American minister. And the house of the Latin American minister is luxurious, opulent, huge villa. The minister is very impressed. So he goes to the Latin American minister and calls him aside and asks him, how did you make so much of money? So the Latin American minister says, come on over here. Takes him to the window. You see that big 8-lane expressway? I see only 4 lanes. That's how I made the money. So the next time, the Latin American minister visits India. Same thing happens. Talks, signing of agreements, and dinner at our minister's house. And this house is even more opulent and more luxurious. So the Latin American, he does the same. He talks to our minister and says, hey, what is your secret? How did you make it? So our minister says, come over to the window. You see that 8-lane expressway? The Latin American says, oh, I see only 2 lanes. That's an island. So that is the Indian Latin American way of making roads. But then when we talk about anything in the context of India, so Indians are known for their individualistic and argumentative nature. So there cannot be just one single road. There are many roads. Government road, business road, individual road. They make their own roads. So I made my own road from Malgudi to Makon. The title of my book. Malgudi, as you know, is the fictional town in the novels of Argentina. Malgudi is full of people who are simple, innocent, traditional, and serious people. Macondo is the fictional town in the novels of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Colombian writer who won Nobel Prize. It's a place of magical ways. It is the opposite of Malgudi. So this road from Malgudi to Macondo is a very scenic road. It is a colorful road. It is full of adventures. The only risk is that if you take this road, you might also fall as a victim to the charms of Latin America and lose your innocence as that in mind. Now, when you talk about road to Latin America, Indian, you should also see from other people's point of view. The Latin Americans, what roads do they have? How do they look at it? They had this traditional road to Europe, looking up to Europe. But that road is less and less used. And earlier the Latin Americans were going to Europe for model, for examples, money, business. But now it is the other way. It is the Spanish and the Portuguese who come to Brazil and Latin America for jobs now. Then there is the Latin American road to Washington DC. It's a superpower expressway. Big expressway, but accident prone. There have been a number of accidents. A number of countries have been hit and hurt. And there have been ambushes. So now the Latin Americans are a bit careful about this road. It's important, but at the same time they have to be cautious. Then they have this road to China. But that is a real 8-lane expressway. Fast, big, and they do $255 billion of trade last year. And the Chinese have given it a line of credit of $75 billion. $75 billion. The only thing is the Latin Americans, they have started becoming a bit cautious because they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. And also they see the challenges arising from the flooding of the Chinese good into their market and the industry. So now they are looking to diversify, look at countries like India. And when they look at the Indian road, they see it as a 2-lane expressway, which is shared between bullocks and BMWs. It's a slow one. We do $25 billion of trade and we are given a line of credit of $200 million. $200 million. But they know it is promising. India is going to grow and they have this road is a kind of comfort zone for them. There is not big risk as they have with the United States or with China. And this is a kind of comfort zone because they know the Indian mind, yoga, meditation, Sai Baba, philosophy, culture. So they know that yes, this is a reliable road and there is something. Now, when you say, we talk about the road to Latin America, I would like to modify it. The Indian road to New Latin America. What is this New Latin America? Well, you all have this stereotype Latin America, caudillos, political instability, economic crisis, social unrest. But these are all things of the past. Now there is a new Latin America which has emerged. And there is a new paradigm shift. There is a fundamental and in many cases irreversible changes politically, economically, socially, and culturally. I just outline a few fundamental changes. Politically, Latin America's instability was due to internal factors, due to polarization between the left and the right, radicals and conservatives, communists and capitalists. So they fought and killed each other, you had guerrillas and dictators. But now the trend is the gap between the two extremes is narrowing. They are coming towards the center. Now they are becoming more pragmatic, more balanced, more harmonious, with policies for pro-poor and pro-business, inclusive development and market-friendly policies. So this is the dominant trend, going towards the center, looking after both sides. This is called as what I call as the Brasilia consensus. We all know about the Washington consensus of the 80s, when this ideology was imposed on Latin America, IMF and Washington, that we should privatize, we should open your market, and that kind of thing. But it led to disasters in many countries. So now the Latin Americans do not take any models from outside. They have developed their own indigenous model called the Brasilia consensus. People call it Lula, the great practitioner. So now, this is the indigenous, their own model, and suits their circumstances, and this is going to be way forward. Now, in this model of pro-poor and pro-business, I would say there is a tilt towards pro-poor, doing more for the people, which is good because now in Brazil alone, about 40 million people have come out of the poverty line in the last decade. Now, as more and more people come out of poverty line due to these inclusive development policies, including in rightist governments like Colombia, Chile, Mexico, as more and more people come out of poverty line and join this growing large middle class, this becomes insurance for political stability. So political stability is assured in long. I told you that the main problem was internal fight between left and right, polarization. That also gave the opportunity for external force to intervene. But now that they are coming towards the center, and so there is the opportunity for external forces to interfere is becoming less. Besides that, the Latin Americans have started building firewalls. They have started building collective strength and collective stability. And they formed regional groups, Mercosur, Andean Community, Central American Integration System called SICA, Pacific Alliance, UNESCO, and the last one is called CELA, the Community of the Latin American countries and Caribbean, which consists of 33 countries, leaving out the United States. So this is to reinforce their stability and security by these collective needs. Now, when they started this process, of course, the Big Brother didn't like it. So they came out with their own scheme called the FTA, Free Trade Area of the Americas, in 1994. The summit in Miami and the Corridor Area Summit. Now, the Big Brother had a scheme, and it was very open. And they put two conditions when they started the negotiations. One, when FTA materializes, all these subgroups like Mercosur and the community should be dissolved. Number two, there should be early harvest. As and when we agree on something, like opening your telecom market or doing investment policy, you must immediately implement without waiting for the final end. That you open your markets, but we will wait for ours, but that we will see later. And for the first time in the 400 years history of Latin America, the Latin Americans pulled their socks, put their act together, and told the Big Brother no. They said no to both these conditions. They said, okay, you might form FTA, but Mercosur will continue. 2, no early harvest. Nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. So they killed it. In 2004, when they had the Model Bata Summit in Buenos Aires, Bush was left isolated in the sands of the beaches of Model Bata. So they buried it. A friend of mine from Brazil, he explained. I asked him, what is the new equation between this new Latin America and the United States? He gave me a story. There was a macho guy from Texas. He came to Rio de Janeiro. He promptly fell in love with the girl of the Ipanema, the girl from Ipanema. And took her to Texas and said, we married. So they married. So after the marriage, at the first day, they called her and said, come, sit down here, okay. I will explain to you the 3 rules of our marriage. Number 1, I'm the boss. Number 2, I will go out anytime I like, I do whatever I like, no business. And number 3, whenever I come home, 2 or 3 in the night, food should be very warm on the table. So the Brazilian Geralda said, "Sister, no problem." And he asked, do you have any conditions? Do you have anything? He said, it's only a small one. What's that? You see the bedroom there? There will be sex every night at 10 o'clock in the night, whether you are there or not. So that is the new external policy of new Latin America with the United States. Economically, you had all these chaos and crises, even Argentina went through in 2001 and 2. Earlier, the Latin American presidents, when they used to go to IMF or SDG for help, they used to tremble in the office of the executive director of IMF. But now there's a role reversal. When the executive director of IMF, Lagarde, and she visited Brasilia in December 2011, and she went to the office of President Dilma of Brazil, it was she who was trembling. Because she was there to request Brazilian money, funds, to rescue Europe. And President Dilma, she put the conditions. Only IMF was there. She put the conditions. 1, the IMF should reform itself. 2, tell the Europeans to be fiscally prudent and responsible. Now, why do they say that? I'll give you 2 examples. Earlier the Americans and the Europeans were teasing and taunting the Latin Americans about, irresponsibility. There are 2 things. One is the deficit, the other one is debt. Now, Latin America deficit in 2011 was minus 0.3%. In 2010, they had a surplus of 0.3%. And if you see in the last decade, the deficit has been under 3%. So the deficit in the case of Europe is 4%. In the case of UK and Spain, it is over 8%. And same in the case of the United States. And if you take debt, the Latin American debt to GDP ratio is 27%. In the case of Europe, it is 28%. In the case of Europe, it is 87%. And in the case of the United States, it's 100%. Now you tell me, who is fiscally prudent and responsible? So now it's the turn of the Latin Americans to give lectures to the Europeans and Americans. Then in the olden days, they had this monster called inflation, hyperinflation. Even as late as 1989, 90, they had 2000%, 3000%. In those days, there used to be a joke that one can never say exactly the Latin American inflation and Indian population. By the time you finish the sentence, both would have gone. And the Latin Americans in those days, when they used to go to the bar, they would order 3 beers. Because if you order 1 beer and finish and go for the next beer, by the time the price would have gone. But last year, the inflation was 6.9%. In the last decade, the average inflation of Latin America is single digit. Anyway, much less than in India. So the thing decisive is inflation. And the growth of Latin America, despite the global crisis, 2010 was 6%, 2011 was 4%. This year I'm talking about 3.7%. So Latin America and this growth driver, the main driver for the growth is domestic demand. Of course, China has bought a lot of commodities, that's an important factor, but the main driver of the growth of Latin America is domestic demand, and that is the and Latin America, by and large, has become resistant to external shocks. It has become resilient. So I see that in the years ahead, Latin America has the capability for the first time to sustain their political stability and economic growth in the years. So this is the new paradigm of new Latin America. Now, what are the synergies and complementarities between this new Latin America and India? I'll just give you two examples. When you say synergy and complementarity, it is mutual value additions, give and take. You have something to give and they have something to give. What do they give to us? Two things: energy security and food security. Today, we import 300,000 barrels per day of oil from Latin America, which is 1/10 of our total requirement. And India is going to need more and more in the coming years. And Latin America has discovered more and more oil fields. Today, they are about 50% of the global resource. Like Brazil, which is producing now about 2.5 million barrels per day. By 2020, they are going to produce 5 million barrels per day. They are going to expand. Colombia, which is producing only 500,000 barrels per day, is now producing about almost 1 million barrels per day. The gorillas have retreated. They got more and more area for exploration. And Venezuela is sitting, this is called Saudi Arabia of Latin America. They have got almost 300 million barrels of oil. And they can increase. In Mexico, now that the new government is going to do reform of the Pemex, and so they are going to invest and they are going to produce. So Latin America is going to be a regular source of crude oil for India. From 10% it can go up to 15%, and they are discovering even more and more. Even the other day news that Israelis have discovered more offshore oil and so on. So it is going to contribute to our energy security, not only in terms of crude oil, gas. Natural gas has not been exploited in Latin America. Venezuela has a very large resource. Bolivia has large resource, but they haven't exploited. And then on top of it, you have the third largest shale gas resource in Argentina, which is not being touched yet. As you know, in the United States, shale gas has completely revolutionized. It is a game changer. Now, while we in India pay what, $16–14 cubic meter, their price has come down to $2 in the United States. Argentina has the third largest shale gas resource, and no one has touched it. Only now they are starting, and the Indian companies have shown interest. Food security. I'm not talking about rice and wheat. Edible oil. Edible oil imports, which is about 2 million tons in 2000. Now it's about 8 million tons, and it is growing. This is the second largest import bill after the crude oil. We've been importing palm oil from Malaysia, Indonesia, and soya and sunflower oil from Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay. Now in India, as we have more problems of land being taken away for commercial, residential, industrial purposes, the water table is going down, and we are not able to significantly increase the production because of the small volume and lack of investment and innovation. So we are going to require more and more of this edible oil and other products in the future. Now, Here is South America, which has easily a surplus land of about 100 million hectares. And they can double, triple the production. So it's going to be a source of edible oils, which India is going to import continuously in the coming days, more and more. And then as and when, since we are subject to the vagaries of monsoon, as and when we are shortages, like from 2008-9 we had sugar shortage. We imported $2 billion of sugar from Brazil. And in 2007-8 we imported some wheat from Argentina. So as and when we have shortages of sugar, wheat or other food items, then South America is the source. And the third thing is pulses. If you look at the pulses production in India, we haven't increased it from the day of independence. It's only a marginal increase. And we import something about 2 million tons, and we are going to need more and more. And the cost of pulses is very high in India. Now in South America, they have started growing pulses for exports to India. Panama has started, and also from Brazil they are importing everything. So this is going to be another source of pulses in the long term, which again we are going to need more. So this is Latin America's contribution to energy and food security. And what do the Latin Americans get out of it? What value we should be to? And I'll just mention it. One, this large market of India. They all imagine, one item for each Indian is 1 billion, the conventional thing. So they are fascinated by this new, large and growing market of India, which offers market for their exports. So not only edible oil and pulses and minerals and things, but also manufactured products in which they are competent. So, and it is increasing. The second thing is the value addition given by Indian companies to Latin America, particularly to human resource development. There are about 2 dozen Indian IT BPO companies which employ 20,000 Latin Americans. And totally there are about almost 50,000 Latin Americans work for Indian companies. The thing is, the Indian companies don't form Indian colonies there. They don't take these millions of Indians to work for the Indian companies. You take their company, Essar, they have got 5,000 employees in Argentina. Not a single Indian. No. TCS has got about 8,000 Latin Americans working for it, and the number of Indians will be about 50, 60. This is Renuka sugar mills. They've got about 10,000 Brazilians working for them in their 4 sugar mills, ethanol plants and power plants. And they've got only 2 Indians. And so this has given the message to the Latin Americans that unlike the Chinese companies, who bring their own workers and the mafia, here are the Indian companies which give opportunities for Latin Americans not only to be a staff, not only to be a worker, but at the managerial, at the regional level, providing opportunities for them to go up, and also to when they work with the Indian companies like IT and BPO companies, they get what we call as the multicultural skills, meaning with the Indians and the Americans. There's the crazy case of this guy called Gabriel Guzman, a friend of mine from Uruguay. He used to tell me the story of how he's a Uruguay. He would go to the United States to market Tata. They would look at him and say, "Where are you from? What company is this?" And this Gabriel Guzman, he is the one who turned around the fortunes of TCS in Latin America. He started it in Uruguay first. Uruguay is the port of entry. And today they have about 1,000. Now, thanks to the initial entry of TCS, Uruguay has been put in the global IT map. So they marketed their country saying that, oh, see, TCS is here. This Gabriel Guzman, he was the manager for Uruguay. And then as he developed the business, he became the manager for Mercosur, South America, and then the whole regional manager for the whole of Latin America. And then he became the regional manager for Ibero-America, including Spain and Portugal. And then he rose to become the vice president for emerging markets. Today, he sits in the main table in Mumbai as the Executive Vice President for Global Trade. This is the value addition which Indian companies bring to Latin America. I would only like to say that listeners and the public should travel in this new road to Latin America. And I always tell the business people that apart from getting dollars and contracts when you travel to America, Latin America, you come back happier and younger. Why younger? I asked a friend of mine from Brazil, he gave me this story, very historical story. In the beginning of the world, Moses stood on top of the mountain and said, God, you are everything. Without you, you are nothing. Then came King Solomon, for his nice hair. Man, use your head to change the world. Then came Jesus, heart, love thy neighbor, problems will be solved. And then came Karl Marx. If this is empty, there will be revolutions. And then came Shivnath Thukral.
Now we know why you are giving. Thank you so much, Ambassador. But it's fascinating to hear your story, and I think the anecdotes are in itself a great story to tell. I think before I open it up, just two quick things that you can lead into questions after that. You mentioned that Latin America has been able to build its own model, what you call the liberalism model. Do you see, and compared to India right now, there is a huge problem, right? We don't know what's our model. One of the criticism of any government is that you're trying to get the Americans, somebody buying us out. Was it because of good leadership that happened? Was it because of political consensus it happened? Because as you said, their polarizations were far greater than ours. I mean, on economic policy, our polarizations are not so big. Yet, we don't have the so-called indigenous model, if we were to have it. So what is working for them which is not working for us?
What worked for them was they could not get worse. They suffered. They went through hell. Amazing. Like in a small country like Chile, the fight between left and right, left thousands of people dead and this. In Argentina, the military guys threw people out of the plane into the sea. Amazing, their own people, and they're not different race or religion because of ideology. Having done all these to the extreme, there's nothing worse they can do. So it's at the end of this hellish experience that they have come to the conclusion that you can't do anything worse. Let's come to that. So that is it. That's why they say that in India also, the Indians make policies reforms only when they are given to the waters. It happens. So probably we have not done, we didn't have that experience of inflation of say, 3,000%. We haven't gone through a humiliating crisis like Argentina suffered.
Are you forecasting we do that before we reach the consensus? The other thing which I think more of the business people will be interested is, despite all the change and obviously the numbers are not showing what is the possibility of the potential, there is a perception that doing business is not so easy. I mean, as you could name only 5 to 10 companies from India who are active in that region. I mean, the general experience in Bolivia was a bad one. Why is it that the perception is not changing for Indian companies when China can do $75 billion and we are only stuck at 25? Is it an India specific issue or?
No, you don't have to go to Latin America. And people say that there is competition and rivalry between India and China. This is a joke. I mean, whatever we do, the Chinese do 10 times, 20 times bigger. So it's not a competition or rivalry. So we are in a different league. They do it not only in Latin America, they do in Africa, they do in the United States, Europe, and they do in your own place in India. So that's a different thing. The thing is, it's the way of looking at the glasses half empty or half. I see it as half. Today, when you go to the CIS and Chennai or Pune, you see more and more small and medium companies going to Latin America, doing business. And this earlier only this Essar and Tata and Birla. Now, a whole lot of new companies are going into Latin America. This I see as possible. I see there are more and more interest, and now the Indian companies, they have the confidence, and they have, earlier the guys from Jalandhar and Ludhiana will come and say, "Where are my orders?" He has gone with the headquarters. But now people are more lax, they come and they say they will come again and spend more time. So the Indian business approach has changed now. Now people are more cosmopolitan and they don't understand the market and they speak the Latin American language. And that is why you find more and more about these success stories. So I see the glass is half full and it's full.
All right, open it up to everyone.
Could you quickly tell us what, apart from the gas problem, why did...
Sir, could you just
sorry.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, John Alexander from German Expression. Apart from the gas bit of the story, what really went wrong in Bolivia? Was it our adventurous entrepreneurism by the Indian group, or was it the whiskered leftism of the Bolivian bloc? I mean, it's a sad story, and it doesn't augur well for Indian business in South America, by and large. Everybody is complaining that each one let the other one down. Now, doing a whole postmortem now, to my mind, is, pointless. It's gone, and we're wanting to arrest people.
Both sides are to be blamed. The Bolivians did not fulfill their commitments, and our company was ambiguous. They gave promises, probably without the intention that they would do it. But then again, you see, this has been hyped as this kind of disaster. It is not. Corporation, big company. They always change priorities. Like even look at Essar. Essar announced a steel project in Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of hype, the Prime Minister was involved. And they were to use the natural gas from Trinidad, which is cheaper, and bring iron ore from Brazil. But now the project has been abandoned. Why? Because they invested in this Canadian steel. And I was in Minnesota visiting your mine, where they had invested $1.6 billion in a greenfield mining iron ore project. This is the largest greenfield ongoing project in the whole of the United States in mining area. And the whole Minnesota is thrilled with this. And they invested about $600 million in West Virginia in coal mine. Now with this new opportunity, they left that one. So like that, Jindal, they might have other priorities, they might have shifted, but in the publicity game, it got distorted as a fight and so on. So it might be just corporate change of priority. And I don't see that this is going to change the Latin Americans' opinion about Indian companies or Indian companies who want to go to Latin America. It doesn't change.
Cool.
It's an isolated case and it will die down the whatever image has been damaged. But the business will go on. And people also know that, fortunately for us, the Western media is doing our job. They are portraying this poor guy, as the extremists. So.
Only one other quick question. In this problem that we're having with Iran and trying to get oil, how come with Venezuela having so much, that somehow we fail to capitalize on that relationship and get more oil?
That's not true. India imports a lot of oil from Venezuela. We import about 50% of our needs from Venezuela. That's not.
No, but out of the total capacity, it's
No, of course, yeah. But
I'm just talking.
there's a cost involved because of the distance. But yeah, yes.
Just to follow up on John's question. In fact, how is it going to, if there's more oil and energy coming into Latin America, how is that going to change the geopolitics within the Middle East? How is it going to change the world itself?
But let me answer this one. Way back, 10 years back, when we were telling Indian Oil Corporation and public sector companies to import oil from Venezuela, diversify, not to be dependent on Middle East. They were saying, our refineries cannot process it. And the cost of freight is too much. This myth was broken by the Reliance. What did they do? They found these very large crude carriers which carry from Gulf to United States, they come back empty. They stop at Mexico, Venezuela, fill it up and pay a little extra. They solve the problem. And then they built a refinery which can take any dirty crude from anywhere in the world. They go to the market and buy them. Yes. And they go to people like Chavez, who are desperate to diversify, reduce their dependence on the United States. and he gives better deals. So that is how. It's not because of government policy, it's not because of government companies. It's the private sector which has taken the lead and then our Essar is doing it.
Thank you.
It's not going to change in a significant way. Because see, the thing is we are very in the comfort zone in Middle East. You know that. Okay. So from 10% I see maybe 15%. Okay. But you don't go beyond 20%. But the good thing is it's a diversification. So we have another line, another source.
Hi, I'm Nicky. I'm a banker with Credit Suisse. We generalize LATAM in statistics. Is all of LATAM pretty much the same? I mean, Brazil, we talk of Brazil all the time. Brazil's performance over the last decade. Is Argentina, or the rest, Peru, smaller countries, are they also progressing at the same pace? And
No.
would you recommend?
No.
Exactly.
Mine is a very generalized
Yeah,
question.
exactly.
Like,
So
I
therefore-
talked about this dominant trend of going to the center. Look at what Chavez is doing. He's going in the opposite direction.
Exactly. So it's really limited to Brazil, probably.
No, but that's why I call it this Latin American general trend. Like when I talked about a single digit inflation, you have exception. Venezuela has 50% inflation and Argentina has about 25% inflation. So you have exceptions. But the thing is, the trend, for example, after Lula established his model and became successful, now the other people started following. Like when Jose Mujica, the leftist gorilla from Uruguay, he contested for election. All the rightist media there in the international media said, oh, this guy is a gorilla, he's going to become president. You know what he said? I'm going to be like Lula. And they voted for him. In Peru, there is another extremist called Ollanta Humala. And so he was also branded as extremist and he was making that kind of statement. Last time he lost the election. So this time he got advisors, Brazilian advisors. And so he told the people, I'm going to be like Lula. So this is the trend which influences. But then you have degrees. Like Chavez is the other extreme. He's really trying to take Latin America back to the old days. Then you have Rafael Correa in Ecuador, who is something about 30% Chavez. And President Cristina in Argentina is about 20% Chavez. And Evo Morales, is also about 15% Chavez. So they are trying to pull in the other direction. But the thing is, they cannot but fail because as the large and growing middle class is emerging, and they have to come only towards this kind of consensus building towards the center. That is going to be the trend. Of course, there will be always exceptions in everything.
My name is Arun. I have really two academic questions. One is, in some countries like Japan, while there is an interest to do business and all of that, there is a huge emotional connect to a couple of factors. In the case of Japan, it's Buddhism and India's support in 1951 not signing the Sanskrit Treaty. Is there any emotional barriers that connect that part of the world because in terms of what you experience, it sits below the business relationships and all? Secondly, I know this is a broad generalization, but is the private sector of the business world on balance seen as a force of good rather than against?
In Latin America, they are also like Indians. Not know how, they know who. So there is also, it's not system based, it's not institution based. It's generally personalized, individualized. People are emotional people. So that's why, when you do business, you become friends. And that is why the Indians feel comfortable and the Latin Americans feel comfortable with India. And then across Latin America, there's a general admiration for the Indian culture, philosophy, meditation, yoga, Sai Baba. You find these top business people in Latin America, they sleep over the books of Deepak Chopra and thousands of followers of Sai Baba. So there is this emotional connect. And then this has been reinforced by the new admiration for the Indian IT sector. They think there's something wrong with the head of the Indian. They're doing so well in IT. So now they are really puzzled and they want to follow our model and they want to make Bangalore out of their Bogota. that is the new thing. So it's very positive for us, which is not there in the case of China. China is developing, going fast, but they don't know how they do it. And anyway, they don't want to do that model. That's wrong. The other thing is
business seen as good or
yeah. See, in the olden days, the government thought they were the custodian and the guardian of the people. They were the only one to run with this business, robber barons and quick profit. But now the governments across Latin America have realized that they cannot create wealth by themselves. They cannot provide employment by themselves, and they need the private sector. So they have to give space for the private sector to grow and provide jobs. So that realization has set in across. So the approach to the private sector business, same like in India, educate is possible.
I just had a supplementary to this question. In India, the role of civil society / NGO is seen as a very, it's a bit precarious right now, right? I mean, are they acting as stumbling blocks? Are they enhancing the role of private sector? Largely because the private sector has vacated the space for NGOs and civil society who are becoming a voice of opposition to anything from mining lease to anything. So, do you see that playing a huge factor there, or is it like just bipolar? Corporates, private sector, and public sector?
You have the same situation like in India. Like, they stop the dams and they stop the mining projects. And it has both positive and negative. Like, for example, in the 16th century, the richest city in the whole of Latin America was not Buenos Aires or Sao Paulo or Mexico City. It's a town called Potosi in Bolivia. That's where the Spanish found silver. And Buenos Aires was only a transit road to go to Potosi. And today, Potosi is a ghost town. There's nothing there. They stripped it of everything. There's nothing. It's a dead place. So in the mining areas, people say, you don't want to become another Potosi. If you are making profit, yeah, you have to put something in the community. So there is a very active and vociferous NGO groups across Latin America, particularly in Peru and Colombia, everywhere, that when you do mining, the wealth should be shared with the local community, the environment should be taken care of and so on, which is a good thing. But at the same time, you have the thing like in India, like Brazilians are building a dam and they are stopping it. Chile, there was a similar proposal. But that happens. But the role of civil societies is getting stronger and stronger. NGOs.
So, distance between Latin America and India, and therefore the high cost of transit. Whatever product we are talking about or export can always be a struggle. Because these are always by market.
Yeah, up here, straight down the hall to the right.
Even in case of the Gulf and Middle East, some other markets, and so on and so forth. And always find it cheaper to rely on those markets than Latin America. And similarly for Latin America, to import things to India is hugely expensive. Because I don't see transportation costs coming down, not to the oil price of $100 plus, and however big the tankers, and the huge tankers today, as you rightly said, and as they do come back empty from North America and the countries contiguous to that. So I really, I appreciate all that you said as a possibilities, but I somehow think that this could become a stumbling block in developing closer relations with Latin America in terms of trade and business.
I disagree with it completely.
No.
Let me explain. What is the cost of freight? Under 10%. Now, what is the choice for Latin Americans? Import from the United States, which is 50% more expensive. Import from Europe is 100% more expensive. Import from the United States, you import $100 and they dump the goods, your industry gets hit. So they need an alternative. So the cost of importing from India, even if it goes to a maximum of 10%, it is still worth it. So it's not a factor. And now for us, what are we importing? Edible oil, minerals, and crude oil. You have any choice? You also want to diversify? You are willing to pay the extra 10%? So this has not affected the ongoing trade. And as you know, the technology improves, as the volume of trade increases, the price comes down. You know, look at the Brazilians. They found that the Australians have overtaken Brazil as the supplier of largest supplier of iron ore to China. So what did they do? They bought these big ships called Valemas, very large crude carriers, to cut down the cost. So like the technology and the volume grows, it comes down. And secondly, let me tell you this story. You see, this Indian mindset that is saying that distance and language are barriers. I tell them the story of the AEs and IT companies. They used these two factors as advantages. These 20,000 Latin Americans, they work in the daytime and the Indians work in the night time. So they make use of this difference in time zones to service their clients in North America and Europe. So it is not only not a barrier, but it is an advantage. Like, you know, this crisis revenue, they have got the research team from Buenos Aires. They finish in the evening and they pass it to India, and here, then because of 8 hours difference, then how to carry on. And so the work goes on round the clock. So this is the old way of thinking, but it's no longer true, because when you look at the cost of products, when you look at the alternative, when you look at the strategy of countries to diversify, so the freight is not a big issue. And again, language. Now, we do business with China, we do business with Japan. So, you know, the Spanish and Portuguese, you know, are much easier. Today, the most popular foreign language in India is not French, it is Spanish. So, you know, I don't see them as barriers.
But just to add, people-to-people connection is still a problem. Right? The cost of travel for the retail category.
It's not a problem.
There is no movement from India to Latin America will be minimal for a long time.
There are connections either.
No, you see the half empty, I see the half.
No, it's not half empty story. It is half, I agree it's half full. But it's not as big a prospective market as other parts of the world are. We will diversify, we will get oil from there, we will increase trade, but not at the rate to become a total alternative.
I'm not saying that it's going to be a mecca for India. I'm not going to say that it's going to replace the United States or India. No. It would be another new market with opportunities for you to diversify, get 10%, 15%, 20% of whatever. And then it has got certain things you don't get in India, like minerals. Okay? You get $2 billion, you get soya oil, you don't get from India.
So I think also sustainability there in many cases far ahead of others.
Yes.
In terms of just hardcore technologies.
Sir, we are talking about movement of goods. I've been a travel and tourism man all my life. And the cost of air transport in a package tour is 60%. The rest could be land and investment. And therefore, entire Latin American countries, that area, is a long haul. And people don't have A for the time. It takes 24 hours to reach half the world away. And I think in the immediate future, it looks highly unlikely that we would be able to share Indians going to those countries or they coming here. And besides the fall in the value of the rupee. So that's the most difficult thing I've been fighting to ensure that there is on the tourism map of the world for the Indians to go abroad. But they are looking for new destinations, things like that. But even thinking of an Indian population in a package tour going abroad, it would be the neighboring countries, what I would call short haul, maximum medium haul, but not long haul. Currently, that is what I'm facing.
But I agree, because
No, but
I'm not saying that thousands of people are going to go to Latin.
But having said that, most Americans would love to go there.
But things are becoming better, much more than many of you imagine. Like you have been talking to Air India, which is not a flight. No, they want to go to only Detroit or they want to go to Washington DC. They never want to go to and the Latin America has also been inefficient. They various airlines went bankrupt and they didn't come. So who makes money out of it? Emirates and Qatar Airlines. So today you have direct flights to Buenos Aires, and Emirates has started recently a service to Rio and Buenos Aires.
And Sao Paulo.
Fantastic.
Sao Paulo.
So a friend of mine, he came, he spent 10 days in Rio and 10 days in Buenos Aires. So they make money. And when my son wanted to go to Beijing, what does he do? He takes Emirates, comes to the boy and takes a Beijing flight from there. So, you can talk about your arguments and obstacles, barriers, but other people will make money.
They still find a way out.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, can you share your thoughts on one thing which you noticed about the trade union movement and the labor? Is it militant in South America? Is it supported by the state governments, the labor, or how good or bad? Forgetting what happened in Bolivia, but something like what happened in Manchester, in Maruti factory. Do you think such incidents will happen or they are very sporadic?
The history of trade union movements is different in Latin America, with the got mixed up with these guerrillas, leftist movements and dictators. But also there was also the positive history, some of the dictators and the strong, they co-opted the trade unions, bought them, made them thoroughly corrupt as an Argentina system. And then you had trade union leaders like Lula, who became president, and he had developed the skill to negotiate with other people. Because he was a trade union leader, he knew he had to negotiate and get the best, and the factory has to function, only then they will get salary. So that is why he was able to negotiate and with the business people. Unlike like Chavez, he's a military man. He thinks that this is my way, otherwise I will. Now, so it's a different history over there. They don't have serious problems of trade unions. There it is military. Even Evo Morales, he started. But then the thing is, they all raised the expectations. Like Volanta Humala, we talked about how the mining companies came and destroyed. But now, the main revenue is the royalty from the mining companies. So when his own people now make noise, then he has to, calm them down. So in Argentina also, they raised the expectations of trade unions, and then they found that they are hitting the industries, so they had to calm them down. So they are reaching a kind of equilibrium. Yes, everyone has to have their entitlements and obligations.
Did you have a point?
No, that's it.
Okay, as per the Gateway House rules, I think 9:30 is the formal cutoff. After this, it's the informal, so whoever wants to hang around and talk to the master. But thank you so much. It's been a fascinating one, this session, and I'm sure you have some new thoughts, new business opportunities. But again, we'll access you whenever we are running into some obstacles and how to bring the cross down. But thank you so much, and thanks to Gateway House for doing this session. Thanks so much.